All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Today I'm joined, as always, Jim. How are you doing, sir?
It's another day in paradise. Plumb proud to be here.
And today we have a very special guest, Leonard Maltin, a very decorated film critic, film historian, among novelist, writer. I mean, the list goes on. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm sitting here with somebody I greatly admire.
Oh,
And
you stole my line.
I'm
Thanks.
happy to be here.
Oh, amen. Well, we're glad and very happy that you're here. Truly, truly. I mean, you've been a voice of reason out there when it comes to, stay away from this one. Don't miss this one. I was like, if he likes it, yeah, let's go see that. I'm serious. I think it's first of all, you have the coolest job in the world, I thought. Because I remember coming up as a kid and somebody would say, well, this or that. Well, the movie critics say, well, wait a minute. What do you mean a movie critic? Well, they'll let you know if it was this or that, if it was good. And all I could think of when it first hit me, maybe I was like 10 or so. So you get paid to go to, and it just, I couldn't put my head around it.
I see them so you don't have to.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But then it balances out with the good stuff.
Well, of course.
Would have to.
All it takes is one good movie. Mm-hmm. Every now and then,
Yeah.
one solidly good movie brightens my outlook on life and
Interesting.
does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, that's true.
I went to see Twisters, when it opened, just before it opened 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
It was just what I hoped it would be. It's a disaster movie.
Yes.
And it has all the earmarks of a disaster movie.
Okay, sure.
All the ingredients, amped up special effects and sound.
Sure. Oh, God.
You know, you can forget about it as soon as you leave the theater. But while you're there,
you
have a good time.
Hell of a movie. Yeah. Well, I call those candy bar movies. Mm-hmm. They're good while you're chewing on them, but they're not all that nutritious.
No, exactly. Like fast food in general.
Yeah. That's so true, boy. So I it's tempting to. I don't want to ask this right away, but in a historical way, what would be like the top 3 movies that they made that movie, and then every movie that came after it was either tainted or enhanced or influenced? Because some of them...
There are movies that are game changers.
That's a good way to put it.
That have that kind of influence.
Yes.
They don't come along very often.
No, I wouldn't think not.
Well, I mean...
by nature.
I think, just to pick one, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Stanley Kubrick's, but that was a game changer.
Yes.
Because visual effects didn't really amount to much before that.
Right. They were kind of hokey.
Yeah.
They were all Jason and the Argonauts is.
Yeah, well.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, that's Ray Harryhausen.
Harryhausen. That's a classic in his own
right.
right.
His stuff. But 2001: A Space Odyssey was.
Yeah.
Well, in the parlance of the day, it was a trip.
Yeah.
That's
for sure.
And it remains a trip. I think it holds up actually remarkably well. It was an oddity at the time it came out, and remains unique. There's nothing else quite like it.
No.
And Kubrick was apparently that way overall as a filmmaker. He didn't want to repeat himself, and he never did. He did something different every time out.
Did Nashville, wasn't that?
No, that's Robert Altman.
Robert Altman.
That's
okay.
another.
Yeah.
Altman, when Robert Altman came along, when MASH came out in 1970, I believe, 69 or 70.
And that being the movie, by the way, not the TV show.
Well, exactly. It's
Yeah.
a movie that inspired the TV show.
Right.
When that film came out, that was a game changer. That sort of set the stage for the 70s. And you talk to any young filmmaker, almost any young filmmaker, they cite the films of that decade as their inspiration.
Really?
The films of Hal Ashby, the films of Robert Altman, the films of, Francis Coppola. It was the decade when Spielberg and Lucas came to the forefront of the movie world. So much creativity, so much originality. If you're going to pick role models, pick from that period. You'll do well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Boy. Yeah, nothing but iconic movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, a lot of
Jaws.
A lot of draws too.
Yeah.
But there's always,
Well, I got to take the bad with the not so good.
Yeah.
The good with the not so. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Wow. Jeez, oh man. So if you had to,
Or as
pick,
Charlie McCarthy said in a short with Edgar Bergen. So I guess Bergen really said it, but Charlie said it. You got to take the bad with the lousy.
yeah. Well, that's true. And even though he was, and you could see his lips moving all the time, which drove me nuts. And because I wanted to be, Paul Winchell inspired me to do this too, rest his soul, to be a ventriloquist.
Well, who didn't?
And it just drove me crazy to sit there and pretend to, how are you doing there, Leonard Maltin? It comes out N.
And I think I bought a book on how to be a ventriloquist.
Me too. I bought that book.
Yep.
I know that book.
Yep. And then, you know who I got to know a little bit later on? Jimmy Nelson.
Oh, Farfel.
Farfel. Yeah.
And
Danny O'Day and Farfel. And Tatita. Yeah.
Leslie makes the very best
chocolate.
Wow.
He was a lovely guy.
Yeah.
He was a lovely guy.
Yeah, Jimmy
Although my
Nelson.
daughter will never forgive me, apparently, for taking her, or dragging her, as the case may be, to a ventriloquist convention in Las Vegas, where I got to present Jimmy Nelson with like a lifetime achievement award, and get my picture taken with Danny O'Day and Farfel.
Oh man.
A hotel full of these people. Everywhere you went.
Everywhere we went,
What?
there were people in their dummies.
Oh yeah.
Like 9.
Well,
Ventriloquist
she's still scarred
Yeah.
to this day.
A little bit.
Still bears the scars. Oh my God. Well, that's not a bad way to go.
I came to appreciate Edgar Bergen later, as I got older, and I realized, forget the lips moving, which is hard to do, but he was a great comedy writer.
Yeah.
You know, he was writing a lot of that material,
Oh yeah.
and it was funny.
Yeah, you don't think about that, do you?
You know, and I remember seeing him. He had a kind of a little final surge at the end of his life, towards the very end of his life. And they booked him in Vegas for the first time. I don't know if he'd ever played there before. Actually.
Wow.
And some people were saying, really? Edgar Bergen? I don't know how old he was then, but he was.
Yeah, he was no
getting
spring
on.
chicken.
But he was re-energized. And I saw him just before he went to Vegas for that final gig with Johnny Carson. And he killed. He came out, he was great.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And his daughter Candace
Yeah.
has talked about this too.
Huh.
And so that, that's kind of sweet thinking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're a kid, just like,
Going out with a
I
bang.
can see your lips moving. What's the deal?
Right.
What's the deal?
Yeah. Oh God. Well, they could see my lips move, but I had to ask you about, because I'm an animation guy, and I'm just curious what your top. No, I won't bug you about the top 10, but maybe the top 5 or 3 of the animated movies of all time.
Gosh.
Oh God. Oh, here we go.
Well, that's troublesome.
Yeah, good. And was I in it? Okay, there are little caveats. You can limit that'll cut it down significantly. Just the ones that I was in. Okay, go.
Oh,
No,
man.
I'm just kidding.
No,
I mean, it's how do you do it?
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it because they're all segmented to me in different ways. I don't think of vintage Disney in the same way I think of the second coming of Disney.
Uh-huh.
You know, the starting with Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
another kind of Disney in my mind. Not better or worse, just different.
What would you say was the disembarkation point from one to the next?
Well,
What-
there was that
is there an
sort of
era?
fallow period there, you know.
Oh, okay, Black Cauldron
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. 'Cause they all say it.
Yeah, really?
Everyone who worked on it, you know, knows
Yeah.
that, you know,
Yeah.
they went through a little dark period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if anyone listening to us hasn't seen the documentary Waking Sleeping Beauty by Don Hahn,
Oh, yes.
that's a must see
Yes, it is.
because it goes through that period. Very uncomfortable, very difficult time because the older animators were retiring
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
or dying off in some cases, and they weren't being replaced. Not right away, but there was this young contingent, most of them students at Cal Arts,
Yes, that's right.
who,
Andreas Deja. And
well, yeah,
different-
Tim Burton,
Tim Burton was. Oh, yeah.
you know, John Lasseter, all sorts of people who were just waiting for somebody to say, "Go, do your thing," or you know, merge your thing with our thing, and create a new generation
thing,
of
yeah.
Disney, a new generation of Disney. And I lived through all that, and my daughter Jessie lived through all that too.
Oh, yeah.
And so we still have a great fondness for a lot of those films.
Oh, yeah.
And then the coming of Pixar, you know, another, you know,
Yeah.
and,
A whole new world.
and
huh?
then the whole explosion, Sony, you know, ImageWorks and DreamWorks Animation.
Yes. Boy, definitely DreamWorks. My gosh.
When I was a kid,
They set out to dethrone Disney. I
yes,
think.
exactly. Jeffrey Katzenberg, right? It was an odd period too because suddenly animation was big business, and Walt Disney had that business all to himself
Yes, he
for
did.
decades.
Yeah.
For
From
decades.
from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean Paramount, the unexpected, enormous success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming.
Really?
Nobody saw.
Yeah.
No, the opposite. They thought this is going to be, you know, a white elephant.
Oof.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
But
You're thinking of Dumbo.
what's that?
That was that. No.
When it became instead a smash hit around the globe.
And it was during its time.
Yes.
It didn't have to. Okay.
Yes. Then Paramount said to Max Fleischer, because Paramount distributed all the Fleischer cartoon shorts, the Popeye
Popeye, right?
cartoons,
Yeah.
Betty Boop and all that. They said, all right, you make one of these now. So they were ordered to make Gulliver's Travels, and which, you know, it's a pretty good film, but not, you know,
Yeah. I know,
doesn't,
yeah.
doesn't quite have it.
Yeah.
Mr. Bug Goes to Town. It's not bad. but-
Kind of. Yeah.
yeah. And then after that, everyone gave up. They said, "Oh, that's Walt Disney's thing.
Yeah.
We can't do that."
Right.
And so through the 40s and 50s, except for an occasional import, Walt Disney had that cornered. He had that market cornered. And then when, again, with the occasional exception, then Ralph Bakshi came along.
That's a whole new world there.
You know, Fritz the Cat, and then
Yeah.
I think his best film, Heavy Traffic. And, and then he
Heavy
went on.
Traffic, was that with Brad Pitt was in that one or no?
No, that's Cool World.
Cool World, that's
That's a
right.
terrible movie.
Yeah,
It's
good.
a terrible movie.
Yeah, okay.
I saw
we
it.
agree with
I'll never
on
forget.
that.
I was working at Paramount on Entertainment Tonight at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a screening on the lot in one of their screening rooms. I sit through the credits. I don't leave the movie until
Mm-hmm.
I've been threatened with civil and criminal prosecution. That's when I leave the movie, and it's over.
Right.
But it was like I was spring-loaded out of my seat. I couldn't wait to get out of that room.
Wow.
I couldn't wait to get out. Oh, Cool World.
Yeah,
Hey,
it was that
Nobody,
good, huh?
nobody That's 1,000. You know.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, kind of a follow up to Jim's question. You know, he asked if you had three or five, you know, top films, top animation films. I'm going to ask you, do you have an all time favorite film? And then it's kind of a 2-part question. When you're reviewing or critiquing a movie, do you feel like there's any personal bias, or does that ever creep into your analysis of a film?
There's bias because I'm biased.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. You know, I have my likes and dislikes, my prejudices, my faults.
I guess what I really mean is there any effort to keep that at bay, or is it just part of the job?
It's part of the job, and part of the job of the reader or listener, if they want to give any credence to what I say, is to know what my likes and dislikes tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I can't watch grisly horror films. I cannot watch gory horror films. Can't.
Yeah.
And won't. So if I say something about one of them, if I chance to see one, or there was a period when I was forced to see some of them, then they know that I have that bias. And you have to know the critic you're watching or listening to or reading. And then you know, pay no attention to him. He doesn't like horror films, you know. So it's the way it goes. There's no objectivity. I am who I am. And if you tend to agree with me, when people say they like my reviews, it means they tend to agree with my reviews.
Yes, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, you were on the money with that Godfather thing. It seemed to work out for them.
And it's all a matter of opinion.
Yeah. It is.
There's no right and wrong there.
Right.
I mean,
but there's a level of being informed and
yes,
and
informed and uninformed.
Yes, exactly right. And it's nice. I always have enjoyed over the years when you would point something out that you'll say, well, there was a Capra-esque quality to this, you know, to this production, and it pays homage to, you know, and you would pick up on those things, and that's nice to me. I like that. We're talking about Princess and the Frog at the end of Anika and Oprah singing her song, Almost There, Almost. She walks out, and it was an homage to Singing in the Rain, I guess. The way they and they slammed the door. And that was from a Debbie Reynolds movie. That it was a parody of that. And I thought, that's the coolest. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, Easter eggs, I guess, are those called?
Yeah.
I would think. And I just, you know, and your critiques have always been they've been informative.
Well, I think to be a good critic, you first off, you have to have a passion, a love.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for movies. But you also ought to have knowledge. You also ought to be well schooled.
Yeah, you got to know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And not to recognize something like an homage to Frank Capra or whoever is to reveal your ignorance or the shallowness of your experience.
Yeah.
And I teach a class at USC. I've been doing it 26 years now.
Oh.
We have about 300 students. And they're from all over the university. They're not just aspiring filmmakers. I have water polo players and economics majors and English majors, and future filmmakers as well. And we watch new movies, and we have guests there afterwards from the movie. Director, producer, writer, composer, actor.
Oh, so it's pretty in-depth then.
Yeah. And so I'm never bored because I meet new people every week. And,
wow. Yeah, that's great.
Ask them about, you know, what they do and how they went about it. And then the next week, we begin with a discussion of the previous week's movie. And I ask for a show of hands. How many people liked it? How many people didn't like it? How many people, you know, so on it? And it's rare that there's a unanimity of opinion. It happens.
I would imagine. Yeah.
It happens, but there's all sorts of feelings. And does that make you right and her wrong? No.
No, there is no right and wrong in that.
Who you are and how,
Yeah.
where you've lived, how you've grown up, how you've been reared, is an old-fashioned term.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, I remember that one.
What you've experienced in life, what you haven't experienced yet in life. Yeah, has there been a death in your family? Has there, did you move around a lot? All these different things that make you an individual are going to affect how you respond to this movie, including what other movies have you seen?
That's so true. That's so true. Everything you see through your own filter.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, which it should be. That's probably why I like gangster movies. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. So yeah. Yeah.
Is that close to Steubenville?
Not too far. That's where my grandmother was from. It's not too far. Dean Martin's from
Yes, Dean Martin's from there, and apparently there was strong undercurrent
of
of
is this a gangster joke?
yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking.
No joke.
Yeah, no, it was not a
apparently
joke.
when they were building Las Vegas, they recruited a lot of the croupiers from Steubenville.
Really?
If I'm remembering
wow. Or
correctly,
Youngstown,
from Nick
sure.
Tosh's great biography of Dean Martin.
Yeah. Well, Youngstown was very, very much in fact, it made it into one of my favorite Richard Pryor bits when he was live on the Sunset Strip when he was wearing the red outfit. He said he had this bit about, now I didn't know shit about the mafia until I played Youngstown, Ohio. And I played a little joint down there, and it was a strip club, and they weren't going to pay me, and they go, they're going to pay my ass. And he gets back there. Now, usually a black guy runs into a place, back room like that, whip out the gun and go, listen now, give me my money, goddamn right now. He said, white guys usually shit their pants. These bastards could not stop laughing. Yeah, oh, Rich, come back. Come on, do the gun. Get Carmine. Carmine, come in here. Look at Rich. Hey, do the gun. And I swear to God, I know these guys. I know the actual guys he was talking about. So I don't know where that came from, but I yanked it out of my Youngstown past. But yeah, it was interesting stuff. Yeah, Steubenville, and yeah, I can't believe you were aware that Youngstown was like that.
I was just guessing.
Oh no, it was a very good guess. I mean, yeah, that was a hell of a guess. My cousins are all sitting back there going, "Yeah, he's right. Yeah, it's pretty jacked up." But it's still a great place to be from. But you have to leave.
Yeah,
that's my joke.
Now you were published at a very young age, and so did you know that you wanted to be a critic that young, or is it something?
Didn't want to be a critic.
Enjoyed?
I wanted to be a historian.
Okay.
I wanted to write about movie history and Hollywood history, and that's what I did. As an adolescent, I started reading up, about silent movies, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Laurel and Hardy, the ones that sort of drew me into that era and that world. And the more I saw, the more I wanted to see, and the more I read, the more I wanted to learn. And I was lucky because I grew up, born in Manhattan. At age 4, my family moved to the suburbs, Teaneck, New Jersey, birthplace of Ricky Nelson.
Wow.
And
he's a traveling man.
But we were just 5 miles over the George Washington Bridge. So it was an easy trip into the city. And then when I was about 12, my parents let me go by myself or with a friend on Saturdays, during school breaks and all that. I spent a lot of time
It was
in
hard
Manhattan.
to play hooky
Yeah,
with that bridge.
yeah. And so I had access to the great revival theaters of that era. And the Museum of Modern Art, which then as now, as a showing a constant repertoire of classic films. So it was great. Great place to be.
Yeah. Plus I kind of like the old theaters also.
Well, sure.
I
I grew up at the New Yorker Theater at Broadway and 88th Street was my home away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And most weekends there was a double bill of a Marx Brothers movie and a W.C. Fields movie.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't get much better than that.
That's as good as it gets
Yeah.
right there. Marx Brothers and W.C. Fields. Wow. Phew. That's amazing. I used to think they would always come on at Saturday afternoons, and they would just sit there, and I was just glued. And I thought they were new because everything was black and white anyway.
New to you.
They were new to me, yeah. And that was just, I thought I'd discovered gold, with Stan and Ollie. And my grandfather used to do bad impressions of and it was like, oh, man, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
They really don't make them like that anymore.
No.
They literally do not.
I'm thinking about vaudeville, too. Larry Gelbart, the great comedy writer, said when vaudeville died, television was the box they buried it in. So when you and I were growing up, all these variety shows
Oh, yeah.
were on, from Ed Sullivan on down the line.
Oh, yeah. Jackie Gleason.
And you got to see all these wonderful performers. And one of them wound up at Disney, Gene Sheldon, who played the mute Bernardo in Zorro, and had that great routine with the banjo, where his finger would get stuck. It was a pantomime routine. Just great.
Oh, man. I didn't know
He
I
was
didn't
the
know that.
vaudevillian.
That was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And then just like maybe 8-10 years ago, I saw it, and the whole thing, it looked like somebody did it in their backyard. There was a potted plant that was you walk by and it doesn't sound right. It sounds like crinkling paper because it was, and you just realize that back then you just were so forgiving.
Yes.
We weren't sophisticated. We were just, please entertain me.
I still love that show.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And do you remember Swamp Fox?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yes.
I think I asked you that. Now I'm going to ask you one question, and it's about animation. And I'm the only person in the world that remembers this show. I kid you not, because I ask it at conventions. I do a lot of, you're doing these Comic-Cons and then they'll book you. They ask you the same 8 questions. And so I asked the audience, I go, okay, now, does anybody remember who Amos and Andy were? And then every now and then someone will say yes.
And then you're going to ask about Calvin and the Colonel.
And I'm going to ask about Calvin and the Colonel. Yes, Leonard Maltin, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he's Leonard Maltin, and that's why we're all sitting listening to Leonard Maltin. Calvin, goosebumps again, damn.
Freeman Gosden and Charles Correll, who created Amos and Andy, and portrayed them on radio for, 25 years.
And he was really hard to look at when he was in blackface.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah, they only did it once or twice.
Yeah, and it was hard to look at.
Whereas the actors they hired for the TV show were great.
Oh, yeah.
Spencer Williams and Tim Moore played Kingfish.
Yeah.
There was a funny one.
Well, now, hold on now.
Yeah. But
That's good commission.
Their last hurrah was an animated version of, essentially, they didn't call it Amos and Andy, they called it Calvin and the Colonel.
Yes.
But it was the same setup with their voices. Yeah. That was in a very brief window of so-called grown-up animation or adult animation in prime time.
Is that what that was?
The Flintstones and the Bugs Bunny Show and a handful of others, the Jetsons then and Johnny Quest.
Shirley Temple had a show back then, too.
Yeah, Shirley Temple's Storybook. But the animated shows were in prime time. The Flintstones, that's what, if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and look up the Winston cigarette commercial.
Oh, it's
with
hysterical.
Fred and Barney. It's
Hey, Fred, these are great. These Winstons are so well. Barney, pass me that lighter. And the Flintstones are sitting there lighting up. Right. I like them filtered. Not me, Fred. I just, it's like, wow. You see that now and it's, whoa. There was, I think one of them did a beer commercial too. Ham's beer, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, but yeah, not anymore.
No.
No, not anymore. I'm so happy that you remember Calvin and the Colonel. I thought that was the coolest.
Well,
show
I was
ever.
a TV junkie when I was growing up.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I just
me
you
too.
know, couldn't take my eyes off the set.
Yeah.
I even couldn't do this often. When there was a movie that I hadn't been able to see at the New Yorker Theater that never seemed to play the revival theaters, but it was on the Late Show at 2:25 in the morning. It would be a school night. I'd set my alarm and I'd wake up at 2:25 or 2:20 and
Sneak out.
sneak into the room. No, my parents knew I was doing this,
Oh, okay.
but I had to keep the sound real low
Oh,
so I didn't wake up the household. And then I'd try to force myself back to sleep so I could get up and go to school in the morning. But it's the only way I got to see some movies. And it was worth it.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, the access we have now to
yeah.
zillions of movies.
Whole new world. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's how it was for me. I learned all my stuff outside the classroom.
Yeah.
That's, monkey hour they didn't teach at St. Columba.
Yeah.
When would you say in your career that you started getting like widespread, I guess I want to say notoriety, but you already had notoriety, but like attention and kind of like the celebrityism of being a film critic? You've been featured and lampooned in a bunch of different series.
That was television, really.
Yeah.
Because my first book was published when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
I was signed to do this book when I was 17.
That's amazing.
I had been publishing my own fanzine, as we used to call them, since I was 13. And in each of those spheres, I was reasonably successful.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my film books were pretty successful as books go. But that all pales in comparison to the first night I was on Entertainment Tonight in the spring of 1982. It's comparing a speck of sand to the Mojave Desert.
Oh boy.
It's like my answering machine,
No
which was then a reel-to-reel tape
Yeah,
was
remember that.
full.
Wow, that's
Relatives I hadn't heard from in years.
Oh,
Old
yeah.
friends, people.
I had some of those. Yeah.
Saw you on TV last night.
Yeah.
That's the power of television.
Boy, that's amazing.
That's when they added his face to the book as well.
And after I'd been on, E.T. was on an upward curve, finding itself, and they hired me unexpectedly. That was out of the blue. Someone had seen me on the Today Show where I was promoting a book that I'd written, and it was interviewed by Gene Shalit.
No.
And he and I had a very loose, lively conversation. And somebody out here in L.A. at Paramount Television saw it and called up the man they had just hired to save this fledgling show called Entertainment Tonight. The man they hired was the legendary newspaper editor named Jim Bellows. And they flew me out to do an audition. And they ran my audition tape on the air.
Wow.
Not unlike a story you
Wow,
know.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then poof, In one night, we could be seen on a really good night, we could be seen by 11 million people.
Jeez.
That's not bad.
A book takes years to write.
Yeah.
And now I was doing not
Reaching
just
that
reviews,
many
but
people.
interviews and feature pieces. And
Wow.
the next day is on the air, and the day after that, people are responding. Whole new world.
Wow.
And you were on Entertainment Tonight for how long?
30 years.
30 years. 30 years. Wow.
Wow.
Stumbled into the job. No
Yeah.
television. Well, I had television experience because I'd been on book promotion tours. So I'd go to a city a day and
Yeah.
Good Morning Milwaukee and
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That
that
type
kind
of thing.
But
Not on this level.
not talking to the camera.
Right. That's true. Huh?
And writing my reviews to be heard, not read. Very different technique.
Different critter.
Yeah, different critter altogether.
Yeah.
Can you give us some insight in which way?
Well, you know, if you're writing to be heard, you don't use parenthetical phrases.
Okay. That makes sense.
You have to be, you know, straightforward, direct. And I think I got away with it because I was delivering my own copy. You know, so
Yeah, that's true.
So that was a
You had it. You knew what you were thinking.
yeah, exactly. I was able to communicate that, I guess, because they kept hiring me, and, except for the times they almost fired me. 1 week after my daughter was born, no, 1 week before my daughter was born, they said they were not going to pick up my option, and it came out of the blue. I'd had trouble. I went through 5 producers my first 2 years there. And each producer came on the show with a chip on their shoulder about the film critic because they wanted to work with their guy. I was not their guy. But I finally ingratiated myself with producer number 2 and producer number 3 and producer number 4. It was a roller coaster ride.
You were getting practiced.
Yeah. I commuted from New York to LA for a year and a half.
Ooh.
It's not
Because
easy.
they didn't give me any sense of security or guarantee of how long the gig was going to last.
Yeah, so why would you?
And
Relocate,
they paid my way, you know,
Yeah, that's true.
flights and hotels and rental cars.
Yeah.
But then my wife, being the smart one, said, this is no good. We're apart too much. And we were. 'Cause we were used to being together all the time. I worked at home.
Yeah.
I'm a writer.
Sure, yeah.
So she would come out with me every couple of trips. But
Not the same.
not the same. So we moved temporarily in November of 1983, and we're still here.
Wow. You're temporarily still here.
And our daughter, Jessie, is a native Angelino, and so is her daughter.
Nice.
And I have to ask you too. I saw that for some years you worked for Playboy. In what
That's true.
In what capacity was that? Was that
Well, they had had the same film critic for, I think, 30 years, almost since the magazine started. And the gentleman who did that was having some health issues and was going to retire. And the magazine was always headquartered in Chicago. That's where Hefner was from. Hugh Hefner was from.
Yeah.
And they asked Roger Ebert's opinion, and he recommended me, which was a very generous thing to do. And they saw some of my writing, and Hef liked it, and I signed on, and I was there how 6 years, 6 or 7 years.
Clarify that you weren't reviewing porn.
No. I was reviewing, you know, mainstream movies.
Oh. Well, all right then.
And
Tell it anyway.
No.
I'm assuming it was like articles in the magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No admittance to the grotto.
Yeah.
Came along with the.
Did you meet Hefner though?
deal. Oh well, subsequent to that, my wife and I became friendly with Hef, and we went to screenings there on old movie night. He used to show new movies on
I'm
Sundays.
sure you saw Chuck McCann there a lot.
Of course.
Good old Chuck, an old buddy of mine.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with Chuck,
Yeah.
and then met him again as as an adult out here. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. He was on the very first show that I ever did. He was on it, and he was in Gummy Bears. He was in. It seemed like he was in and out of any show that I was on for like 20 some years, and he, we used to do Chuck McCann impressions. I was telling Conway when I told him, I said, when I invented comedy, never mind.
Chuck was great.
Yeah, that's, oh God, well, that's good. Yeah, I didn't mean to derail your story there, but
No.
it just occurred to me that you had to have run into Chuck.
Of course.
Yeah. In the grotto or somewhere or wherever Chuck was allowed in.
Well, what was funny was when we started going to the Playboy Mansion for these screenings, it was not a bacchanal. It was a regular Friday night ritual. And the regulars who were there were Chuck and his wife, Betty, and Robert Culp, and Mel Torme, and Ray Anthony, and there, sometimes there would be a playmate around, but mostly not. And it was a bunch of middle-aged people enjoying old movies together.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like fun.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
It really does.
And he was the most gracious host. Just very kind and very generous.
Yeah. In his smoking jacket.
Yes, exactly. We went to one Halloween party there, and that was something of a bacchanal. There was a young woman painted silver head to toe.
Yeah.
She was absolute vodka, a little sign to identify her. And we found Hef to say hello. And Alice said, my wife said, what do you hear as tonight? And he fumbled in his smoking jacket and found his pipe. Ah, you're Hef.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
I bet that was a very good gig. Oh, God. Yeah, I can't imagine. I was there. I was in this crazy movie for Mark Hamill a long time ago, Comic Book the Movie, and there was a scene or two that was there, and I was in it. Different people, Roger Rose, of course, Mark. Anyway, we're all there, and we're just kind of milling about, and it was the Playboy Mansion. It was a party. It was, all these girls were there, and there's 4 girls were walking up, and they were just mingling, and I had seen them earlier in the day, and they were in costume, and the one gal that I had spoken with earlier came up. She started talking to me, and I realized, and I can't believe it took me a while, but she was absolutely stark naked. She was wearing a grin and body paint, and I said. And so I just, hi.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was a challenge.
Nice party, right? I mean,
it was a challenge not to gawk.
Yeah, it was like, what are you two doing down there? What do you do? You just, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to look at the time. You gotta go home and feed my kids or my dog or at least something. But what a scene! My gosh. Nothing like that anymore, is there?
No.
You can't explain it either.
No.
Not really.
We were lucky to get in on the tail end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice thing to be able to say you did.
Yeah.
Can't imagine living like that, but you know what? More power to him. What the hell?
He made his own rules.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah, kind of like you. Right? That's amazing.
Well, I did follow my own path, but I didn't know where it was going to lead. When I graduated, when I was hired to do my first book, which was the first movie guide, the big paperback, it was 8,000 capsule film reviews. And the man who hired me to do it, who didn't dare tell...
How many?
8,000.
Of film reviews?
Yeah.
Are there 8,000 films?
Many more than that.
Wow.
The last edition had 16,000 films.
Jeez.
Okay. All right.
Well, just with those numbers, how many movies a day do you watch?
Oh, well, in my prime,
yes,
I would watch 3 to 5 a week.
Oh, that's
all.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Sometimes I'd watch 3 in a day, but not every day.
Yeah.
But
you went through a lot of notepads.
yes. When he hired me to do this book, and he didn't tell his bosses at New American Library that he was hiring a minor a high school senior to do this
Oh,
this book.
well, you must have been good. You know,
He said, so what are you going to do now? I said, well, I've been accepted to NYU this fall. He said, what are you going to do that for? I said, I just hired you. I'll give you a job. I said, well, I'm supposed to go to college.
yeah.
You know, I
Isn't
was,
that
you know,
in the rule book somewhere?
yeah, exactly. I wasn't going to, I'm a rule follower,
Sure.
you know, so.
Not a bad
so-
rule.
So I went to NYU and I majored in journalism, which was great because all those courses were taught by working journalists in New York. Wonderful experiences. And then I worked on the daily newspaper. We had a Monday to Thursday, very professional newspaper. And that was a great experience too. But when I finished with the 4 years, I didn't know what was next. I'd already published a couple of other books, but you couldn't really make a living just doing that.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'll teach. Maybe I'll teach somewhere. And someone said, not with only a bachelor's degree.
Oh, yeah.
When you try to crack that market, you're going to find it's full of people with masters or even PhDs. So I was discouraged about that. And then things sort of fell into place. I started getting freelance writing gigs,
Well, if you're good, you're good.
and things sort of fell my way.
Wow.
And then I got very lucky and met the woman who I'm still married to after 49 years. And she completed me.
That's wonderful. Not everyone can say that.
Yeah.
No, very, very, our first marriage, both of us,
Yeah, yeah. So it's working out.
it's working out. And now we have a wonderful 2.5-year-old granddaughter who
Oh.
lives with us. Our daughter and son-in-law live with us. And we have a very hectic but happy household.
Oh, that's good. Never a dull moment.
No.
That helps.
She gets into everything.
Yes.
I've had to put a lot of stuff away and hide things from her inquiring hands,
Yeah.
including a piece that I got at the Disneyana convention many years ago of Donald Duck swinging the gong from the beginning of the Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh. Oh, yes.
Remember, he had a mallet,
Yeah, a
and he
mallet,
struck
yeah.
a gong,
Bang.
and then something would happen. Every day, something different would happen. Confetti would come out, or it would explode. There'd be different gags.
Nobody knows what's going to happen. Yeah. Remember that
Anything
song?
can happen, Dave. That's right.
Yeah. Today is the day that you'll read all about it. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Boy, the music just sticks with me. I mean, it's just like glue. You know, from the early, I guess I was there at the very, very first Mickey Mouse Club, you know, with Cubby and Karen
Right.
and Sharon Baird, who
Yep.
Sharon Baird, you'll be incredibly interested to know, was the person inside of Lionel the Lion. She was the person inside the costume for Dumbo Circus. It was my first Disney job. And Sharon Baird, and I said, wait, you mean Sharon Baird, like Bobby and Karen and Sharon and Annette? And they go, yep. And I thought, man, this is the coolest thing in the world. You know, because it was kind of like a direct link, if you will, to
Sure.
Disneyana or whatever the word, however you say that.
Not kind of, it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I guess it was. Yeah. I mean, the very first. I mean, be like meeting Zorro. You know, Guy Madison.
Guy Williams.
Guy Williams. I've said that before.
Guy Madison was Wild Bill Hickok.
Wild Bill Hickok. That's right.
Sponsored by Kellogg's Sugar Pops. Shot
with sugar
Shot with
through
sugar.
and through.
Exactly.
Kellogg sugar corn pops.
Sugar Pops are tops. Right.
Oh man, yes, life is good. Now I'll be sitting and thinking of old terrible jingles all night long. After these messages, we'll be right back. And that was Saturday morning. Oh my gosh.
I have another question for you. I'm not sure which was first, but when you get approached by, say, like Gremlins 2 or The Simpsons or Futurama to play yourself, what's your reaction to that? And what was your first time playing yourself in something
Well,
like that?
Gremlins 2 came about for a very specific reason. I don't know, I'm not friendly with very many filmmakers. And I like to keep it that way because it's hard to
Critique.
you know, a friend. But I happen to know Joe Dante since we were teenagers.
Oh.
And another Jersey boy, but not from the same part of the state as I. He was closer to Philadelphia. But we knew each other. And he came out with another friend from NYU to work for Roger Corman. And started editing trailers and then got a chance to make a first feature film. And then he made a film called Gremlins for executive producer Steven Spielberg. And he filled Gremlins with in-jokes for his film buff pals. I went to see it, and I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was a little too mean-spirited.
Yeah, the bad guy was a nasty guy.
I said, what am I going to do? I have to review this now on national television show, Entertainment Tonight. If I was on a newspaper staff, I'd recuse myself and pass it on to the other critic. You know, I was the only guy at ET, and this was a big movie.
Ooh, yeah.
Had to be covered. I said, well, can I maybe, hold back on my criticism? I said, no, I'm not being honest. All I've got going for me is my integrity.
That's right.
So I said what I thought about the film, and it caused a rift between us, which I understand. No one likes to be criticized, including me. But a couple of years went by, and I got a call from Joe's producing partner, Mike Fennell, and he said, well, we're doing Gremlins 2. And the Gremlins are going to invade a TV network and go into different studios and create mayhem. And we want there to be a movie review show, and you should be the critic on it. And I said, well, I think I owe you that much.
Yeah.
So that's how I came to be on a stage at Warner Brothers, on a set being directed by Joe. And by that time, they had a VHS cassette of the movie. He said, just use your own words. So he directed me to give a bad review to Gremlins again in Gremlins 2, until the Gremlins came and throttled me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And this got me on 2 gum cards of the story of the movie. 2 tops
Oh, really?
collectible cards,
Oh, wow.
which I've signed for many fans.
That's
That's
great.
funny.
And that's my bid for immortality.
Wow. That's not bad. Gremlins too. Oh.
So I've said no to a lot of other, a handful of other people who asked me. I said, no, I don't want to do that. But I did play myself on BoJack Horseman,
Oh, that's right.
and where they gave out the Maltin Awards.
Oh, that's nice.
And I had my name dropped by Marge Simpson. And
Nice.
South Park is probably.
South Park is, yes. South Park
Yeah.
was, and someone asked me if I gave him permission for them to caricature me, and I said, yeah, the same permission Barbra Streisand gave
Yeah.
in that episode, where we tackled the Mecha Streisand. But they didn't diss me. I played a heroic character.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
I think you did better than Barbara, I would think. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think a
On the
little
whole,
bit.
yeah.
Oh, man. Oof. That's really when you kind of made it, though.
Well,
I think.
it's
To me.
very flattering.
Yeah, the closest I ever came to that, I did the Tasmania show, and I was Taz, and there was always a scene where Taz was ripping and roaring, and all the animals would flee through the ahead of him, because Tasmanian Devil was coming, and they drew me into the. I was the last little guy going, and I had long brown hair back then, and it unfortunately looks just like me, and so that was my one claim to almost fame.
Oh, I did get to play myself in an episode of Freakazoid.
Freakazoid.
Oh,
and I found myself sitting in a room. You were the only one who wasn't there.
I was the only one that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maurice LaMarche, Tress MacNeille.
Yeah.
I was sitting between Ed Asner and David Warner.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And the guest villain that week was Tim Curry. And that was fun.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That was really fun.
Yeah, I just saw Tim Curry maybe a month or so ago. He's seen better days, but God bless him, he's still going. God, you know. And Ed Asner, I knew him rather well. He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
And geez, wow, it's amazing. You know, some of these people that, you know, you get to work with them occasionally when they're slumming. You know, all right, I'll do a cartoon. You know, and then I get to meet him. You know, same way with Rita Moreno. You know, I got to meet her because of Bonkers, the cartoon, and it was like, okay, this is great. You know, and if only we had cell phones then that could take pictures, I would have. But yeah, that's just wonderful. I'm just glad that people like that go slumming every now and then and do animation, because you get to hang with them. It's good stuff. I love it.
So going forward, is there anything that you want to promote or publicize, or what's next and new for Leonard?
Well, I have a website, leonardmaltin.com, which leads you to my weekly podcast, which drops on Fridays, which I host. Maltin on Movies, it's called.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yes.
Jesse is my co-host and co-producer. And we interview show business people, as we just did with you this afternoon. And we have fun. We get to meet and talk to wonderful, talented, interesting people. Everyone from Mel Brooks to Amy Adams to
wow,
Al Pacino.
That's awesome.
You know, and to some unsung heroes, people who aren't household names perhaps, but who've done and continue to do good things. And then we do a live stream every Sunday from our living room.
Oh, wow.
And it's astonishing how communications have changed. We sit there and get a live scroll of comments and say, hello from Abu Dhabi, or greetings from Ireland. It's like, really?
No kidding.
Really and truly, yeah. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's
it
great.
sure is. That's got to be fun.
That keeps us pretty busy.
Yeah, knowing that
Right
you're
on.
reaching out like that too.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, make sure to check out that Maltin on Movies. Check out his podcast.
Yes. Something
It's
to.
there to be had.
Well,
I was very lucky. I got to meet Dick Cook around the year 2000. He was then the president of Walt Disney Company, a 37-year
that long.
veteran. Yes, he started as a Jungle Cruise operator, as many people did, and then graduated to running the monorail.
Oh, wow.
And wound up being the
Graduated to monorail.
right,
That's
and
the
then
name of
wound
his
up
autobiography.
being president of distribution for the company when it was called Buena Vista, a leasing company, and then became the head honcho. And he seemed very approachable, and he was. And I pitched him an idea of doing a series of DVDs from the vault and put them out uncut, uncensored, and we give special introductions to the stuff that might be, you know, politically incorrect, or that you might want to discuss with your children before you let them see it, so that we could just do it. And we did 37 volumes of Walt Disney Treasures.
Wow.
Including The 9 Lives of Alfego Baca. And Robert Loggia came to our studio we were using at the time and brought his gun belt that Walt had let him take home as a souvenir.
Oh, wow.
And he was great.
That's
And
great.
we tried to get Leslie Nielsen for Swamp Fox, but it didn't work out.
Oh, gosh. I used to love that show.
But we interviewed an awful lot of great people who are no longer here. And it's all the more valuable, and precious to me that we got them on camera.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. You're a true historian. That's just wonderful. Well, you've got the stories, huh? You've got them.
Got a lot of them.
Got a lot of them. A lot of good ones. Well, thanks for sharing with us. It's wonderful.
Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you very much.
Leonard Maltin, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, accept no substitutes. God bless you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for watching another episode of Tuned In with Jim Cummings. Today we were joined by Leonard Maltin. Thank you so much for being here. Be sure to check out his podcast, Maltin on Movies. And we will see you in the next one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I almost forgot the most important part. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're almost at 80,000 subscribers. And thank you so much. And a special thanks to all of our subscribers on Patreon. On Patreon, you can find bonus content. You can find extended interviews and interviews that don't even air on YouTube or anywhere else. And of course, if you just want to listen to the podcast, you can listen anywhere where you get your podcast. Jim, Leonard, thank you so much for today, and we will see you in the next one.
Hooray.